Hi, this is Polly with Get Busy Thriving. And in this video, this is for you if you find yourself with something like you want to take one step forward, but then you take two steps back. Sometimes we might call it self-sabotage. Sometimes it's like, I just can't stop this thing that I'm doing, a bad habit. I work with a lot of people with food issues and challenges, and it's like, I can't stop eating or get myself to do those things that I want to do. Some would call it willpower, don't have the discipline, and we get frustrated. Well, what I want to say to you is oftentimes it's because we have some old programming. And let me kind of explain what that means. So, do you know how on your phone you get those update reminders that say, oh, we've got a new iOS? If you have the Apple iPhone, it says, oh, I've got a new iOS update. Or you've got an app that maybe you haven't used in a while and it's like, oh, you've got to update. But if you don't make that update, or if you have one on your computer too, I see this with some of my computer programs on my desktop, is if I don't make those updates, things start to get a little sluggish, they don't work quite right, I can't open files, I can't transfer things as quickly, I don't have all the latest information, it just sort of like slugs along, right? Well, that's what's going on in your brain when you have old programming, is what I call it. So what happens is, as we're young adults, 5, 8, 10, sometimes as a teenager, depending on what it has to do with. If it's something very survival based, which oftentimes food issues are around that, like if I don't look good, if I don't fit in with the community, I'll be ostracized, like I won't be lovable, things like that. So I think you know what I'm talking about. But in any case, we pick up these thoughts as a young person, young woman, young man, and if we don't recognize them as an illusion, or well, that's not true, or really, and we start to believe it, right? Especially if we have a traumatic event, like something traumatic or dramatic happens, or it comes from an experience with someone that you really trust, admire, look up to, or is involved in your caregiving, a family member, a loved one, a teacher, a coach, an influential person at school, maybe someone that you really admire and want to hang out with, or a boy. For us women, it was really important that we fit in with that and be well liked, right? So things happen at that period, and it's so long ago for many of us that we forget that even happened, or what happened, and what we told ourselves. And what happens is we start to believe that thought. If it's traumatic and it's dramatic, it can be like instantaneously. We believe that thought, and then the course of our life actually changes, and we don't even remember it, right? We don't even remember doing it or saying it. We go, that's crazy. But that's how it happens. I see so much of this in the work that I do with coaching clients, and I've just read too much about it from other therapists, coaches, and just on the web to deny that this is where the root of all of our, like, I want to do something and I can't. I need more discipline, but I can't get myself to do it. Or I don't have enough willpower to resist that thing that keeps coming on. Well, it's probably based in some old beliefs. And what happens is we thought that thing, whatever it was, we made up about that situation. I'll give you some examples on how you can define this for yourself and discover it, for yourself. And then begin to examine it, right? Get curious, right? Because if you want change in your life, so the root of our behaviors is from our beliefs. So we act, we take action or we don't act. We follow through on something or we don't follow through. We be who we want to be or we don't because of something that we feel based on something that we think. It's just how it works. So a belief lingers and creates thoughts that match it and resemble it. We live as if they're true. We believe those thoughts, and then we act upon them. We get a feeling, we get a hit, and we go, oh, that's true. Okay, that's who I am, or that's the way that the world is, or this is never going to work out, or I'm not enough, good enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, clever enough, creative enough, rich enough, whatever, right? And we act as if that's true, and then our behavior resembles that. And so we are inherently, our psyche, there is nothing stronger than the individual psyche to stay true to our identity. So if it's something we made up about ourselves, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not fast enough, smart enough, whatever, successful enough, we will go about making that true, right? We will live into that. The mind just is a servo mechanism. It will fulfill that. So here's what I want to kind of wrap this up with a bow and get to an exercise for you. So I have some notes that this will be posted along with this blog that I'm going to do with this. So if you want those, there'll be a link below. So the exercise for you is, it's two parts. So if you've ever studied the work of Byron Katie, The Work, it's called, you can look that up, and I'll also link to that. There's a great little download PDF that you can do. It's just 4 questions. So I'm going to start you off with helping you go back, doing a little exercise to help you go back in time, like a little time warp, because all those memories live in your mind. And if you can just pull up that programming, that old memory, it's like a little file of, some of you it's a movie, some of you it's just a moment in time, like a picture, and some it's kind of like an experience, like you had the experience maybe with your family that they didn't recognize you, they didn't appreciate you, or there was just years of abuse. You maybe can't pinpoint it to one particular slap on the face, but you can pinpoint, like, I just felt all this abuse, something was wrong with me, my parents hit me all the time or ignored me. That's a form of abuse for a child who needs that parental connection and love. So here's the exercise. So think back to an experience, and I invite you to do this, not just watch this, maybe watch it through, but please, if you want work, if you want change, if you want to create something different in your life, if you want to stop that wanting to do something but can't get yourself to do it, the pauses, the hesitations, or just the feeling like lack of willpower or discipline, it's based in something, all right? You don't need more willpower. You just need to kind of unlock some things. So this is one way that you can start to find those keys for yourself. So think back to an experience you had before you first maybe binged, or some struggle that you have, or something that frustrated you. So for a lot of my clients, it's around food. So I'll say, think back an experience you had before the first time you binged and purged, or you can remember a time in your life when, what is your earliest memory of noticing your body, or talking to yourself about food, or people influencing you? I have a lot of clients who said that their parents restricted food because they didn't want them to get fat, or a seemingly loved one would say, oh dear, you don't need to eat that because watch your thighs, or whatever, right? So whatever it was for you, what was going on in your life and in your household and your environment, whether it be at home or a friend's house or at school, where you remember that conversation, like what's your earliest memory of something taking place? And maybe it's like a period, it could be after divorce for a lot of people, or it could be a big transition, you move to a new school or cross country or something like that, parents split up, something like that. And just remember those early memories, and just sort of like allow the mind, as I'm talking, to, it's just gonna like one's gonna appear, or like the general conversation of abuse, neglect, something's wrong with me, I'm not good enough, shows up. So what is one of those earliest memories? Think about like how old you were. What did those people say? Like what took place? What did they say and what happened? What do you remember them saying? What did you do? What did they do? Who was there? What did you make it mean? So what took place? What was the situation? What was going on in your environment? What happened in your life, either in that moment or in those series of moments? Maybe it could be, a period of months or years. What was going on, and what can you remember that you made it mean, right? Like I had a client recently who said, well, my parents split up, and my mom couldn't take care of us. My dad was alcoholic, mom couldn't take care of us, whatever. So she had to go into foster care because her mom chose living with her dad or raising her. And I don't know the financials. I have a feeling that's some of what was taking place, is they couldn't afford to take care of their 3 kids. So they went off to foster care. So in that moment, this young girl made up, they don't love me, they wouldn't leave me, right? I'm not worthy of being loved, or they'd take me with them, right? But what was happening had a lot more to do with other things. But that's what she told herself in that moment. Told herself once, twice, in those dramatic moments, we make something up, right? The mind adds meaning to what's going on. It's like, what happened is parents parents in that case went together, and the child or children had to go to foster care. That's what happened. And then the meaning is what the child says about the parents, about herself, about her siblings, this new foster parents, all sorts of things. The mind makes up meaning to justify, to confirm, something. And then she lives as if it's true. We live as if these things that we made up, these programs that we started feeding our mind back then, were true. And then we, through repetition, we believe them. So think about your experience. What did you hear around you? What did someone say to you that influenced you and had you make something mean something about yourself? Like, I'm too fat, or, something wrong with me. I have to change for this person or these people, or I won't get that love and connection that I need, right? We need that love and connection as human beings to thrive. So look at it from that perspective. What did I mean? What did I say? What do you remember hearing and saying to yourself in your mind? Because that will give you some clues to back then what you thought is probably, if you haven't upgraded that, if you haven't examined that experience or that time in your life with some curiosity, then it's just lingered. And that's why you can't get yourself to do the things that you want to do, is, well, you've got some old programming in place. So write down what you remember of the story, what happened, and then how it led to you starting to produce new behaviors, right? Did you get more isolated? Did you start doing better in school or taking on an event and excelling at sports? Did you, hide out? Did you, start doing the binging thing in the closet? Something that you took on as a behavior to sort of compensate. And it could be multiple things. You might start excelling at school and then, in the closet to compensate for all that stress that you were under, the anxiety of not feeling lovable, good enough, cared for. You to reduce that anxiety or to fit in, just as a little weight loss strategy. That was what happened for me, is I thought, I just want to eat good foods and not gain weight. You know what? It turned into a habit that turned into an addiction that lasted 20 years. So I know where it comes from. So what did you tell yourself to start your binging and purging, if that's what has stopped you, right? How did you justify it, right? Just examining all of that. So, and the perspective we can have now as adults when you do this exercise as just being in a quiet place, being from your wise woman or your wise self, and looking at this with curious, loving, compassionate eyes, well, of course a little child, little girl, a little person would make this up. That's valid, right? But I don't have to continue to believe that. And so here's the second part of it, right? This is where you start to examine it deeper. This is the work of Byron Katie. So she has 4 questions in, quote, the work, she calls it. So the first one is to ask yourself, is it true? One of the thoughts that you wrote down that you made up as a young person, is that true? Is it true my parents don't love me? Is it true I'm not good enough? Is it true I'm not blank, right? I'm not lovable, because then they would whatever. Is it true? And the second one is, can you absolutely know it's true? Without a shadow of a doubt, there's no other possibility of what could have possibly gone on in that moment. Can you absolutely know it's true? And you know what? You can't, because you were there, but you don't know everything that was going on in all of the people's lives in all of that circumstance. And so it allows you to sort of free yourself from that restriction, that's true. I thought it once and that's just how it is. So is it true? Can you absolutely know it's true? The answer is no. How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? When you believe that thought that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, or I won't be lovable, or people always leave. What happens when you think that thought? How are you left? How do you react? What steps do you take in your life and in the world to either compensate or to fall into that? You know what? I'm not lovable. So what do you then begin to do in your life that has you not feel lovable? Do you overeat? Do you, hide out, stay away from people? Do you call yourself an introvert because, well, I can't be out in the world, nobody likes me, or I'm not lovable? So how would you be without that thought? I'm sorry, who would you be without that thought? Who would you be in the world if you didn't believe that you weren't lovable? What if you could just let that thought go and say, who could I be? Who would I possibly be? Just dream and imagine like we used to do as kids. Who would I be if I didn't have the thought, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, skinny enough, smart enough? Who would I be? I would be all of those things. And in Byron Katie's work, there's a turnaround, right? So you start to take those statements, those limiting beliefs, those limiting thoughts that hold us back and keep us from doing good work and being our best self and like showing up in the world. I see a lot with my clients who just want to lose weight and get smaller and smaller and smaller. They just want to take up less space. And I'm like, you're not here to take up less space. You're here to freaking shine. Like, take up huge space, physically, energetically, with your voice, whatever. But something as a young child, that's how children do naturally, but something when we are young happens. We turn off that insatiable energy we have to just shine in the world as kids, and we go, I've got to fit in, I've got to feel lovable. Well, you know what? If you shine that, you actually will. But you've got to give yourself permission. So some of that comes from looking at these old beliefs and thoughts that were created back then, examining them, saying, can we absolutely know that that's true? And then it's like, is it serving me to believe that? Does it serve me to believe that I need to lose 5 pounds, be smaller, take up less space, I'm not lovable? Does it serve us to believe all these things? Hell no, it doesn't serve us in the moment. It doesn't serve our community. It doesn't serve our loved ones. It serves no one for you to play small. So my invitation to you is to take these steps, to go through this exercise, take that memory, and it might be memories, right? And I'm not just saying eliminating one belief. By all means, you can have some powerful breakthroughs eliminating one belief, but often there's a couple lingered in with it. So sometimes doing this a couple of times and just kind of pulling those old thoughts, those old beliefs out of your past that are stuck here in your programming, upgrading them, finding the new iOS, the new information operating system to transform who you are into who you know yourself inherently. Like, you were born to make magic in the world. You were born to shine and thrive. And every thought that you have that's contrary to that feels bad because that's not your nature. And so it's about unlearning this, upgrading our programming to go, who would I be if I didn't have that thought? What's the opposite of it? Who would I be if I was amazingly lovable? If I was incredibly awesome in the world? And not to say these little limiting ones. I'm too skinny. Well, okay, I'm skinny. I'm skinny enough. Get off that. Get into your amazing self, right? So choosing to do this exercise and do this work, you may find little breakthroughs, big breakthroughs can come of it, and just allowing yourself that opportunity. I've done work like this, and sometimes it's like in that moment I'll be like, whoa, I had no idea, that was stuck there, or that was what I thought. And then sometimes it's kind of like it lingers, and just examining it, the next time it comes up, you're more aware of it. You're like ready for it. You're all, wait a minute, I'm too smart to realize, like, I don't need to be limited by that thought anymore. So it has less juice and less effect on you, so it can sort of diminish it. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Please try this on, practice this exercise, maybe do it a few times if you enjoy it, and see what comes up for you. And please share if you have any comments below. Would welcome any feedback if this is valuable for you. So remember to like and comment below. Cheers.